Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's class, Your Brain and You. We are going to talk about understanding your subconscious mind, which rules about 95% of your life. We're going to learn where trauma is stored, discover how you view the world, and of course, how you can change it if it's no longer serving you, and why our beliefs matter, and why how we speak to ourselves, even in our heads, really matters. So I'm really excited to talk about this today because this is a huge piece of the it's the foundation of what I do with all of the work with my clients in processing our emotions and dealing with our trauma, is understanding this piece of how the brain works. And so I'm really excited to share this with you today, and I'm hoping I've never done this before, but I'm hoping I can share my screen from here. Oh no, it says I can't. Okay, well then I'm gonna do my best. I'll show you this picture instead. Let me pull this up here. So for those of you who know me, and for those of you who don't, I'm KyleneTerhune. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a sexual betrayal trauma recovery coach and a post-betrayal transformation coach. So I work with women who are recovering from after discovering that they are betrayed from their partner who has a porn or sex addiction. And so in our work, processing the emotions and processing the trauma that has come from the betrayal is a big part of what we do. So I'm actually going to end up showing you this photo, and I have a different one, but I wish I could share it on the screen, but apparently I'm on the wrong web browser for that. So bear with me. I'll post it underneath this video in the Facebook group when I'm done, so you can actually take a look at it. But how many of you have tried to change your behavior or gain a new habit or break a bad habit, and you've attempted to do so by working on the habit or the behavior itself? Just drop a comment or an emoji below if you've done that. We've all done that, right? Like, that's what we do. Okay, well, I need to brush my teeth more. Okay, I'm going to focus on brushing my teeth more, right? Like, if we focus on the actual behavior or the actual habit itself when we're thinking about improving or stopping something. The reality is that our brains really love pattern and consistency. So our brains are essentially designed for comfort, and they go back to the default whenever they can until we create a new default, but they like comfort. And any change that we make, no matter how small, is uncomfortable. It's always uncomfortable. I always talk about when I went gluten-free like over a decade ago, and it was so uncomfortable for the first couple weeks until it wasn't. Right? So it just became like the new version of comfort. I got used to it, and that became my new normal, right? And so the brain really likes its patterns, and it really likes its comfort. So, very rarely is it easy for people to pick up new habits or just drop them like cold turkey. Some people can do that. Some people are like that, but a majority of the population isn't. And I'm actually going to tell you why. And it's not really your fault. It's how your brain works. So that should be pretty exciting. And once we learn how to utilize this and how our brain works, it gives us a lot of information about how we can be more effective at accomplishing our goals, whatever those are. If we want to change a habit, if we want to drop a habit, if we want to create new patterns in our life. But the truth is that the reality or our behavior has a lot to do with our perceived reality. And I say perceived because two people can be in the same situation and have experience two totally different realities, right? That's why you can have, sorry, my dog's over there. My cat just jumped up on us. So if you end up seeing animals, I'm surrounded. Or if I get a little distracted when they're all over the place. So that's why two people can be in the exact same situation and have two totally different outcomes. So we have little t traumas, we have big T traumas, or we have no trauma at all. And that's three people that maybe had the same exact experience in the same moment at the same time, and they came out with totally different realities because of how they perceived the event itself. So trauma really isn't the event. It's not what happened. It's how you perceive and interpret the meaning that you take from it and how your body responds to it. So it doesn't really matter what the situation is. If it overwhelms your nervous system and it's too much for you to process emotionally in that moment, it becomes a trauma in your life. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's an example of that in action. So I was in a training, and I may have this a little backwards if it was her or the other person, but the story will come through. And that is a memory was created in one individual where it was totally inaccurate. So one woman heard the other woman say, "I don't like you." And so she had this belief after that, of course, if you had heard that she didn't like her. They didn't get along and all this kind of stuff. There was actual video or audio recording of that time that was never said. That was never communicated. But because the person had interpreted the experience that way, that's the memory that was created. So our memories can even be inaccurate based on the interpretation of what's happening that we pull. So how does this happen? So hopefully you can see this, and I'll do my best to kind of, I'm inverted here, so it really confuses me. Okay, so we have the events that happen that we perceive with our senses. Okay, so we see something, we hear something, we feel something, we smell something, we taste, whatever. All of our senses are involved, right? In any given moment, there are 11 million pieces of information per second, bits per second, being given to our brain to process. 11 million, that's a lot of pieces of information. So who thinks that we can process 11 million bits per second? Anybody? Well, our brains are pretty amazing, but they can't do that. It's a ton of information. So we actually can only take in about 126 bits per second. So that's a significant difference, right? We have 11 million bits coming at us, but we can only pick up 126. So what our brain does in order to figure out which pieces are important is it deletes, distorts, and generalizes the information. Now, it does this based on our experiences and based on our beliefs and based on what's valuable to us. So how many of you have, and I'm just going to use this situation as an example, but you can apply it anywhere. How many of you have ever gone to buy a specific model of a car in a specific color and you thought, this is so cool, I've never seen this before, this is very unique, or maybe you bought a new pair of tennis shoes, right? Something like that. Then you go out with the purple SUV of a specific model, and all of a sudden you see that purple SUV everywhere, right? You've never seen it before, and all of a sudden you see it everywhere. That's because you just programmed your brain to, you changed the filter by saying, oh, my cat is messing with she bumped my laptop here. Siri's popping up. All right. So you just by that purchase, by your behavior, by your action of buying that car, communicated to your brain that this is important, which then reset the filter with which you're looking through the world. And now it's pulling proof of that important thing. That's huge, right? Because when we set the filter of what is gathering, what information is gathered, so we have the 11 million bits, we're going to pull what's important. We're going to pull 126 bits of what is important to us based on our beliefs and our value system. Okay, so it's basically what is important for our brain to know. And it's going to filter through that 11 million bits of information all the way down to 126. And so what we choose to believe about ourselves and about the world and the filters that we set dramatically impact the information, the 126 bits that your brain chooses to pull. Does that make sense? I hope that's making sense. So in order to do that, it deletes, distorts, or generalizes the information so that we can process what we need and we can gather what we need, and it is personalized to us. So once we have the information, we then create an interpretation out of it. So we create meaning out of it, which impacts our physiological state, our emotional state, which impacts our physical state, and then that impacts our behavior, and out of that pops results. So essentially, if you can see through this process, you have the filter, you're gathering the information based on what's important to you, based on what you're looking for in life to prove what you want to prove or disprove what you don't want to prove. And you create meaning from these situations. The meaning and the thoughts and the emotions then create a state of being in your body, which impacts your physiology. These beliefs and these thoughts then create behaviors, and then these behaviors are essentially the outcome that is your life. That's why this is so important. That's why this is so important. So there's a couple arrows that are bidirectional. So your physiology can impact your state, can impact the meaning that you create, and vice versa. So those couple can go back and forth. So basically, if you've ever been physiologically anxious, and then you have the emotion of anxiety versus your thoughts are anxious, and then you feel the physiology, it can go both directions. Okay. But the important thing, and the picture that I'm going to post is a little different than this, but you're going to get the idea. The important thing is that all of these basically stem out of our beliefs. And this is why it's so important. So this is where our subconscious mind is where all of our emotions and traumas and memories are stored. That's why working with the subconscious in emotional processing and trauma work is so important, because that's where they're stuck. That's where they're stored. They need to be processed efficiently to be set aside to move forward with life. And if we are having a filter that is not serving us, then we need to work on the beliefs that are setting the filter. So some examples. If we believe that everyone is out to get us and nobody loves us, and the filter is set, that's the 126 bits of information that the brain is going to pick up from any situation. Horrible, right? But we've all been there. We go, we all have imposter syndrome, for example. Maybe you go to a high school reunion, or you just got a new certification or a new licensure or a new degree, and you're around people that have had those things for 10 plus years. They have more experience or whatever. We go in and I have imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough. That's the belief, right? The belief is actually, I'm not good enough. And so then we pull information. Well, this person looked at me funny. This person said this person, None of that could be actually true. But it's the belief that's setting our filter that then we create an interpretation out of, that then we feel anxiety from, that then it impacts our behavior and how we show up at that party and that get together, right? And then we keep going through life going, I'm not good enough. Well, now I have proof that I'm not good enough. And I go to this other situation, and now that I find more proof that I'm not good enough, and it keeps going on and on and on and on and on. Versus if you had a belief that I am worthy and totally valuable, and the information that I have to present is totally valuable and totally helpful. And if somebody doesn't believe that, then that's more about them than it is about me, right? Then you go into that same exact situation, and maybe they do actually give you the side eye, right? But it rolls right off. Or maybe you notice that they really didn't give you the side eye. They're actually just, something caught their attention over here, right? So the way we go into it with the beliefs that we have in our subconscious mind, the beliefs that we have about ourselves and about the world. Oh, there we go. I don't know what's happening. My laptop is being, she's sitting on that's why. I had my cat is sitting on my detached keyboard, and that is what was causing so many problems, I think. Okay. So, sorry about that. So the belief that we have about ourselves and about our lives really dramatically impact how we view the world and how we set the filter, and then how we internalize the experience, the beliefs that we then can create from the experience, etc. So when we're trying to change our patterns or our habits, if we're just focusing on that, it's not going to work. We have to actually go back to the belief. And I talk about this, if you guys haven't listened to the podcast episode this week, Making Empowering Choices Through Recovery, I would go back and listen to that, because I talk about the idea that we do what we want to do, which sounds wrong when you're thinking, well, I'm doing this thing, I have this habit that I don't want, right? But in reality, it's serving you in some way. There's a benefit that you're getting from that. So our beliefs and our values really create the results that we get. So if we're not addressing those, if we're not addressing the why am I doing this? What do I believe about it? What is it giving me? What is it serving me? Why is it here? Then we're not actually ever going to change the behavior because we still need that outcome. Okay. So, I really love ice cream. I decided a couple months ago that I want to be the old person that when I'm like 110, they're like, well, what was your secret? And I say, I ate ice cream every single day of my life. Terrible habit, but I love ice cream. So, if I wanted to change that result, I may have a belief that, I would have to figure out what is the benefit that I get from ice cream, right? Well, maybe it's a dopamine hit. Does it make me feel better? Does it give me some sort of emotional comfort, some satisfaction when I have this ice cream? Does it make me feel good? What is it giving me? What is the point? How is it serving me? There's something positive that I associate with this. So if I ever wanted to change that habit, which by the way, I don't actually eat it every day, but if I wanted to change that habit, I would have to figure out what it is giving me in order to replace that with something that I would deem more as a healthier way to get that emotion. Does that make sense? So if it's calming me down at the end of the day because I've had a stressful day, maybe I should actually be maybe a replacement would be something like meditation or journaling or sitting down and just like figuring out a way to move the energy from the day and separating from the day, right? So does that make sense? So this is why it's so important to understand 95% of our life is ruled from our subconscious. And that is because that's where our beliefs and our values are stored from the experiences that we have, the interpretations of the experiences and the meanings. And if we are living life with a filter that we don't like, we have to be willing to change the filter. And if we want to change the filter, we have to go all the way back to the subconscious and deal with the beliefs that are stuck. So a lot of times this looks like, I am not worthy, I am not enough, I am not smart enough, all of these negative self-beliefs. And that is what I do with my clients. We figure out what the beliefs are, we replace them with the belief that you want. We do parts work. So maybe you have conflicting parts. Part of you wants this and part of you wants this. Well, we can integrate those and help you make decisions. So a lot of that has to do with the emotional processing, brain rewiring, and subconscious work that we do. And these filters are created, yes, from events, but really primarily from the belief, the interpretation. So going all the way back to the beginning when I was talking about two people can have the same event and come out with a totally different interpretation that impacts their body on a different way. One is traumatized, one is not. Okay. That's all I got for you today. I hope that makes sense. I would love to hear any questions that you have around this. I will post the picture so that it's a little more clear. And if you're watching this on the replay, just pull that up and you can take a look while I'm listening. But yeah, if you haven't listened to the podcast this week, we talk about making empowering choices and the importance of making a decision, but also doing this work, figuring out where does the belief come from. And I dropped a second episode this week that is a meditation that I would recommend all of you go through. It is a best version of you meditation. So it helps you visualize the best, highest version of yourself, what that person looks like, how they feel. It helps you experience that as a reality in your body. And then you can come away from that visualization and meditation with some insight as to, okay, well, what did that version of myself do that I'm not currently doing? Where can I make changes? What, things like that. It can bring a lot of awareness into you. Hope that's helpful. I also wanted to let you know that I have 3 and only 3 coaching spots available in May. So if you are looking for some one-on-one recovery coaching, I only have 3 spots available. So if you're interested in that, just reach out. I will send you the link to book a connection call. The connection call is free. We just discover if it's a good fit, if I'm able to kind of help you work through where you're at in your recovery, kind of get to know you a little bit, and share what my plan for you would be moving forward. So if you're interested in that, just let me know. And I hope you guys have a great week.